because if you read the Spirit Linking Leadership book, you'll find out that certain people love change. Certain people think, oh, this is great, I'll try this new thing. And then certain people can't stand it. I had a woman who had 2 girls. I have known her my whole entire life. Her children had come on Monday afternoons. She was a single mother. I literally I've known her since I was 5. Her kids were in our program for the 5 years up until I was switching. And she called me up one day and screamed at me and said, who's gonna babysit my children on Mondays? Who's gonna babysit my children? And I thought to myself, is that all we were doing, was babysitting her children? And then I took a little bit of a step back and I recognized I was changing the way she operated. For the last 5 years, she was able to get her kids from school to faith formation and then meet us here at 5:10 and pick up. It was something that it was her routine. I was changing her routine, and that scared her. And I had to, that's just gonna happen. There's other people that said, oh, I went to, Catholic schooling my whole life. I went to Catholic college. I went to, Catholic high school. You don't have to teach me anymore. Well, I don't have to teach you anymore, but during that time, you weren't a spiritual leader of your domestic church. You were, your own spiritual person. There's a difference there. What I hope we do here at St. Peter's is really get into their family life, make a difference, to start a conversation, recognize the joys of our Catholic faith and the beauty of it in whatever way, shape, or form I can do that. But just going back to looking at your campus, you kind of have to figure out, like, our gym holds 300-ish people. We happen to have 25 to 30 round tables. Some of them are large. They could seat 12 people. Some are small. They could seat 10 people. So you kind of have to figure out, like, where are you going to put these people? How is it going to work? How are they going to fit? And then even above that, like, what does your space contain that you can use? So for instance, I happen to have a screen. I have a sound system. I have a stage. I also have, as I said, hallways in my school building. I have beautiful stairways that sometimes we can use. And so I really think that if you're gonna have a gathering with families, you need to make it be interactive as well as enjoyable as much as you can. Like, if you're doing Lent, it might not be fun, but it will be heartfelt. And hopefully, I really believe my responsibility is to intentionally convert hearts to Jesus Christ, no matter who I encounter, whether you be 90 or if you're 9, because I believe that we're all on a spiritual journey and we all can move closer to Christ, if that makes sense. Okay? I'm not going to read off my 20 easy steps. I know you guys are very smart people and you can kind of read this. I will just say that this is an investment. It's something that you do need to sit down with your either, business person, pastor, staff people, and kind of look at that, because it is more money, it is more time. It is not easy. You might need more help in your office. I did in the beginning have like a team of people that I kind of worked with. I am not the best delegator, and I'm not the best, coordinator to make everybody happy. Certain people would say, okay, let's get them together and read the Gospel of Luke. Okay, that's not going to work. Okay, we could read snippets and we could go back and forth and kind of, maybe look at it in a different lens, but just to read to them Gospel of Luke is not going to work. So I have done everything in gatherings and I think Kathy's also going to talk about this. You can either keep the whole group together and have activities at the table together with their families. You can say, okay, I'm going to have an icebreaker in the beginning and fill in the blank, or have a slideshow of whatever. And then at some point, we're going to break them out. I'm going to take kindergarten through second grade, and I'm going to have a catechist that's going to do something with those people for 40 minutes. And then I'm going to take third through fifth grade, and they're going to have a catechist for 40 minutes. And then I'm going to take, 6th, 7th, and 8th and have a catechist and they're going to do something for 40 minutes. You can have them all during that time rotate or do different activities, and then fill in the blank, whatever time everybody comes back into your space, and you can kind of share what you've done individually, you know, parent to child, or you can share at the table. I always say that I never would have someone stand up and ask them to recite the Nicene Creed. Whatever you're going to ask them to either talk about at their table, or if it is something that you're going to raise your hand, it really does have to be something that's not too challenging in a way. And there's creative ways that you can kind of get around that. So
To give them an example of one of your.
yeah, I'm gonna, again, that's my next part, I think. So as I said, I held multiple meetings. I had as many as we needed. So you didn't come on, you know, February 4th to our meeting, I'm gonna have another one. What time is good for you? Okay, Saturday morning. Okay, let's have one on Saturday morning. You can't get here on Saturday morning, I'm gonna have one on Tuesday night. Okay, and by the end of it, we might have had 7 or 8 meetings. Everybody came to our meetings. We explained it and we took questions. Okay, all right, this is just a joke. So we also see those commercials that say, Xarelto, ask your doctor if Xarelto is right for you, right? Why would I do that? I'm not a doctor. My doctor has been trained for at least 10 years. I'm gonna trust that he knows what he's doing. He's the expert. And that is the same thing with us. We are the experts here. So if we think this is a better way of going about faith formation, we just have to trust in that. Yes, you're gonna listen to people and you're going to take their advice if it's necessary. You're not always going to take their advice. You know what is best. You definitely have to trust and pray to the Holy Spirit. I'll just give you a very short example. I ended up having these meetings. I handed out our forms. I said to them, sign up, thinking everybody's gonna it's gonna work out perfectly, right? Pick a 5:30, a 9:30, or a 12:30, whatever time works for you. You're gonna be my guest. Welcome, come. Okay, I had normal amount of people for the 5:30 offering. I had 100 people for the 12:30 offering, and I had exactly double the amount of people for the 9:30 gathering. There was no way I was going to be able to go through and put people in different groups, and it wasn't a perfect science. I wanted to quit. So my kids were really little at the time. Someone was watching them. They were at our pool. I just left my office. I stood up. I went to our pool and I sat down with a friend that was watching my kids for me so I could be at work. And I was like hyperventilating. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening and whatever. What am I going to do? I can't move all these people. Everybody's going to hate me. She goes, no, Eileen, it's perfect. This is the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit is telling you to have 2 9:30 gatherings. So what I did was the first, and she said, go back, go get Father Mike, tell him this is what, and she like literally counseled me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think she's right. So I went back and I offered a 5:30 gathering, a 9:30 gathering, a 12:30 gathering, and the next week I had another 9:30 gathering. At this point, I didn't tell them they were coming on October 30th at 9:30. I just offered the times. I was able to get through that challenge by listening and paying attention and listening to Holy Spirit, and it all kind of worked out. So sometimes things happen that, you know, you are the leader, but you have to kind of, you know, roll with the punches too. Whatever vision you have right now in your head is not exactly what's going to happen. So you have to be, if you're like a type A personality that crosses your T's 4 times and dots your I's, you have to kind of understand that it's going to be a little messy, and you have to be okay with that. So this is this year's gatherings chart. I didn't bring with me the, these kids also go to standalone classes, which is, we offer different offerings. I'm sure you guys all do too. So this is just the family component of our program. And this is an evolution from 10 years ago to today. All right, so things have changed. I have done things differently. I have tried different things. I happen to always name my gatherings. So they always have a theme. All right, my friend Kathy Hunt does it a little differently. She takes the theme of our catechist books, and she kind of goes off those themes. However, if you look at what I have offered in the past, I would propose that, for instance, if we're going to do a gift gathering, if you flip your piece of paper, I'm just going to be talking about the second page of this right now. We offer something called the Stewards of God's Green Earth from A to Z, and we're going to talk about taking care of the environment. I happen to think that might fall underneath morality, right? Mm-hmm. If we're going to talk about the year of faith, that's church, right? If we're going to talk about baptism of the Lord, that's sacraments. We're going to talk about, formed in Eucharist and sent in mission, that's sacraments. So everything I've offered, liturgical year, church. They're all things that fall in our catechist guide, but they're just kind of, I try to be relevant. I try to be on point. I try to not waste people's time. I try to not offer the same thing. I've really never really repeated myself up until now when we've had, I don't know, 50 different gatherings, or I couldn't even tell you. So this year, let me just back up. Last year, we had a little bit, I'm sure maybe some of you did too, a little bit of financial kind of crisis in our church. I was trying really hard not to spend any money. So last year, our whole theme was know your gifts and share your gifts, was our whole theme for the year. And one of the things we did, which we had never done before, was we had a parent-only gift gathering. So during these times, either kids were home or they were in class. And the parents came into the room that I'm sitting in now, which is our parish center. Our parish center only holds about 100 people. At these gatherings, we did not feed them. There is carpet on the ground here. I was not in the mood to, go there, shampoo, and have all that stuff. So we did not do that. Last year, we had something called Know Your Gifts, Share Your Gifts. It was a parent-only presentation, and it was really, really, I think, meaningful. We kind of broke open what it means to be a minister, what we do here at St. Peter's, different ways we go about serving others. We talked about our mission statement, gave a parent talk about being the leader of my household and trying to figure out the gifts of our own individual children. And people really liked it. And they had the opportunity to sit together with just parents. So we had times that we could kind of share, think about, your first moment of prayer, or who brought you to being a spiritual person, and think back about your childhood. And it was really a lovely kind of experience. We also then had 2 concerts that we offered, but one of them we threw ourselves. So we found people that we are known in our community that have musical talents, and we created, me and my music minister, I really should say my music minister first because I can't even hold the tune, but we had a concert, and we had kids that could play that were really talented. I asked kids to come back from college that could play. We have world-renowned flutist in our community. Grandparents came and sang opera. So a lot of times when you're offering, whatever you're offering, you'll find people that have that spirit in them. So for instance, if I've done, oh God, help me. All right, so if I have time, I don't even know what time it is. If I have an idea, like we're gonna do something on the environment, you have no idea, throw it out there. You have people out there that probably compost, that probably, run stuff for Girl Scouts about recycling, that, fill in the blank. You don't have to do everything from the beginning all by yourself. Ask for help from your people. This year we're having Colleen Rayner come. She's hilarious. She is going to be presenting in our church. So for instance, this is right after our 5:30 Mass it's going to be. Our church holds about 650 people. So divide them by 2. Half are going to come on Saturday, half are going to come on Sunday. I'm going to do something regarding Lent. And these are the times that they're going to be offered. And then we started something, we have 2 things that we kind of started relatively recently. One of them from the Share the Gifts and Know Your Gifts idea was we offer things here at St. Peter's that are so valuable. Why don't we have our families plug into them? So we ask them to do 2 activities that have already been offered here at St. Peter's. The last thing I wanted to tell you was, if you go through your packet, I ask each family to do a corporal work of mercy. You can go on our website and you can, go underneath faith formation, and you'll see there's a gift logo. Right underneath it, it says Corporal Works of Mercy. If you click on it, it's all the different offerings that I ask our families possibly to do. So they have to enact one corporal work of mercy with their family per year. They have to read the gospel passage before it. They have to enact the corporal work of mercy, and then they have to fill out this reflection sheet. This is one of the most valuable things that I think I've implemented here at St. Peter's. It is a really, really worthwhile, life-giving endeavor that our families really like. And then throughout my packet, I have just, you know, an agenda from a long time ago, just so you could see what I have done. Just an example of an agenda. We asked them one time in Advent to make an Advent wreath with us. They were supposed to pray with it at home. And then I asked them to take a picture of their Advent wreath. And we had this, oh, that's not right. We had this tree that we had made, we put out in our gathering space. If you took a picture of your family, you would put it on the tree. It was just a great way of making sure they're praying with it at home. People love to see pictures of other people's families. Kids love to take pictures of themselves. It was just a great idea. And I just, again, just put in different activities that I have done that might be something worthwhile for you. A lot of times when I start a gift gathering, I'll start it with either a skit or a slideshow or something like that. So this one was kind of funny. It was Advent, and it was about, you know, parents trying to get their act together, couldn't get their act together. At the end, they have, you know, envelopes all over the place because we were all asking ourselves to do way too much during, to prepare for Christmas. So it was just a funny thing that I included. These people are professional actors. Bill Lobley is on the Serta commercial. They are professional actors. You have people in your community that would love to do this. You just have to find them. So again, just some ideas in your packet for you. I do have two things that if we do have time, I'll show you, but I'm going to hand it. Are there any questions?
Okay. You want me to put you on speaker for now or no? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna hand the phone to Eileen. You can repeat the question.
Can you please repeat the question?
And then repeat it to me.
I can't hear. Okay, so they had to choose. Actually, that's a lie. I assigned them.
What was the question?
What was the requirements? I assigned them to a certain gift gathering. Although they knew, so if you look at the liturgical year column, they know I'm going to offer this 5 times. So if I assign them to Thursday, November 14th, and they can't come, they could say, oh no, Mrs. Hanrahan, I could come on Sunday, November 17th, and I just switch them. They are required to come to 4 gift gatherings throughout the year. There's no like option. You can switch the times in which they come. Yeah, so however, though, for easiness sake, from our perspective, sometimes I'll assign them. So like, I'll try to say, please come on January 25th, because that's easier for me to do from a logistics standpoint. And people know that. They're like, no, all right, well, okay, my mother-in-law's in town. I can only come on January 26th. I have a family, go ahead. Yeah, some of them I have, yeah, some of them I do have a sign up genius for, like the liturgical year one was a sign up genius this year. Normally, like the Lent one that's in the gym, I'll assign those people. And that's through, we do it through Access, and they will get it on the back of this form. You're welcome. Yes, Kathy will talk about that. No, if they are absent, they get work sent home, but they are responsible to cover, I think it's 2 chapters a session. That's correct. Yes. In a perfect world, you could like call it a take-home kit. You're supposed to, at the end of these gatherings, be like, okay, now take it into your home. If I had another human in my office, that would be something that I would really love to aspire to. But a lot of times, as I said, if they're, a lot of times we'll make something, and I didn't cover this here, I will if we have time at the end. We make something what I refer to as a sacramental, something that is going to remind you to pray at home. I have this, we made these beads that kind of work as prayer beads, and that's the card that I handed. I only have a few of them, Patty, that families were supposed to figure out what needs they needed to bring to the Lord, and there was a family prayer. So my idea was, you're going to put this in the middle of your table and you're going to use it. So that's the thing. You want to get it into their home. Sure. So when I originally started this, I believe the fee was $90 per family. And now it went like if you had 2 kids, it was $115. Like, we stepped it up if you had more than 1 child. And now the beginning price of that is $180. So I didn't jump from $90 to $180 overnight. I've done that over the last 10 years, and I am not planning on raising that price in any time in the future. I do say to them, if you're registered by May, 15th, you get, or maybe it's June 1st, you get like an early bird discount, and then it starts getting more expensive if you don't register, It varies on the number of children. It goes from $180, and then the highest we would charge you is $300 if you register, on September 1st with 4 children. I believe we said in the beginning, it was going to be $10,000 extra that year, the first year. It didn't cost that much. That was what I was allotted in my budget for. She just went to the bathroom. Okay, so I'm responsible for the faith formation for First Eucharist and First Reconciliation and Confirmation, and it's the same as you. It's above and beyond any religious instruction you receive, whether or not you go to St. Peter Academy or come to any faith formation program here at St. Peter. So it's the same. This is separate and distinct from any sacramental instruction. Yeah, there will be an extra fee. There's like $125 a kid, I think, at each of our Reconciliation/Eucharist and Confirmation. And we have about 85 kids in each First Eucharist, Reconciliation, and Confirmation. Yeah. And obviously, if someone says they are in a financial difficulty, we waive their fee. I mean, I really don't ask, I don't ask for a lot of details. You know, I know enough of what's going on out there in my family's lives that I know who's struggling and who's not struggling. You know, if a child has a child with special needs, or you know, they've lost a spouse, or they're going through a tumultuous time, like, I know that information. I will tell you that through this family program, I know more of that information than I care to know. Yeah. That's correct. So whether or not you have your parents be working at home with their child in a book and then come back for a retreat, whether or not you have 4 sessions on a Saturday, everybody does their sacramental preparation separately. And I really haven't changed it from what I inherited. So that has always really stayed the same. Kathy's here, okay? And at the end, I do have 2 things, if we have time, that I could show you, just for examples. I'll show you that. It's Kathy. Here.
You want to talk to me? Yeah, you can. Yeah, and give out the STAR presentation, because I'm going to start with that. Yeah. And then give out the first part, yeah. Only if they want to keep it, but I just wanted to give them an example of what we both have done. So, yeah, and then because they can read how I set mine up, because I thought Eileen did a great job of explaining that. So I thought I would give him. Yes, I'm going to explain that whole first part. Okay, so tell me when to start. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to start by telling you that as I was listening to Eileen, I was learning a lot too, because I think that one of the things that Eileen and I spoke about before is that, you know, we are the spiritual leaders. Like, I always have to remember that my prayer life is the most important thing, and that I'm a spiritual leader, but I have to pay attention to the Holy Spirit. And so I should start by telling you that I inherited my program. My program was already in existence. I came in, so I just finished my 12th year. I think I'm on my 13th year. And when I started, I think I had about 120 families in the program. I remember I came in September and the schedule was already set. So I had 3 weeks, and I can remember that after 3 weeks, I had like less than 3 weeks to prepare for my first gathering. And I know there was like, I think everyone came at the same time. So I want to say I had at least 90 or 100 families in front of me. I remember thinking, oh my goodness, you only get one first impression. So I was hired at like first or second week in September, and by like the 3rd or 4th week, I had to, you know, do my first presentation. So I remember to this day what we did. I don't know if you ever heard of the Pajama Program, but the Pajama Program is an international program that was done by this a single woman at the time, and Oprah Winfrey has had her on TV, and they donated like 44,000 pajamas to Oprah Winfrey. Anyway, to make a long story short, I decided that I would have every family that was coming to this gathering bring 2 pairs of pajamas, and we wrote, you know, cards to the children that these were going to. Because so I remember that how much stress I felt for that first gathering. But anyway, so I'm going to explain a little bit about our program, but first I wanted to share with you the last gathering that I just did, because Eileen and I have shared over the years many times our activities and our goals for the different sessions. And one of the things that I was thinking about as I was listening to Eileen is that since we all, I think many of us, I know Patty has done this, I know Eileen, myself, and many of you have come up with an event or a gathering for families that really worked. Wouldn't it be great if we had a gathering amongst ourselves and we all shared each other's programs, those programs, so that we don't have to keep inventing the wheel? And I can tell you that Eileen and I have done that. We've shared the headbands game, and we've shared the tablecloths for the Living Advent wreath. We've shared many different activities, and we've gone so far as to drive to each other's church with the headbands, so we didn't have to remake them, and with the green tablecloths, so we didn't have to remake them. So I think that I was meant to be here today to listen, because I think that might be a really good thing for us to do, so that we're not constantly reinventing the wheel, but we're all sharing in this family faith formation together. So I wanted to start with this little star reflection. And St. Catherine's is very near us at Mount Carmel. St. Catherine's is in Glen Rock. And so the person that's running that program, we have shared each other's events too. So I made this up, and then she helped me a little bit, Marianne at St. Catherine's, and then she went and implemented this for her Advent family program as well. And the same thing with last year, we did the same thing. So that's another thing to think about, that, you know, 2 of you could work together, or 3 of you. One plans the Advent session, and one plans the November session, and maybe the third one gets in a speaker and invites your families to that speaker, so you can share the cost, you can share the coming up with the ideas, and you can share the activities, and even you can share the resources. Like if you're going to play a headbands game, you know, take it to each parish so you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. So The Star is a movie that came out last year. And for Advent, I like to do something where I keep the families together, because sometimes we separate them. And also in our parish, we have a summer program. And for the summer program, we tell the families that they have to come back as a family 3 times a year. Once for reconciliation, once for an Advent retreat. We call it the reconciliation or Lent retreat. And then once for a national speaker that I'll explain in a few minutes. So whatever I do for my family program in Advent, I also know that I do for my summer program. So I know I'm going to have 5 gatherings in Advent. So I come up with one thing, and sometimes I bring in a speaker, but this year we took the movie The Star, and I watched it a whole bunch of times, and I came up with 4 different clips that would help us reflect on Advent. So how it went is that we would show a movie clip, and then we would teach a little lesson on that clip, and then we had a scripture on that clip, and then we asked everybody to pray out loud for that, and then everybody sang a song, but from that movie. So I was not familiar with that movie before Advent, and the movie is wonderful because the songs in the movie really help us pray too. So I just wanted to share that with you, because I think that if we came up with different things like that and then shared it with each other, so I'm willing to share that whole presentation with you, and I'm sure there's things that are even better than that you've already come up with that you could share with us. So that's why I wanted to start with that, because I think sharing our resources is really important. And Eileen and I laugh because we're not sure which one came up with the Living Advent wreath. I'm pretty sure it was, what's her name? Verna that shared that with me. I'm pretty sure she's the one that takes the credit for it, should be taking the credit for the Living Advent wreath, but it was really cool. It's something we shared. Okay, so now I'm going to start with, so I give you that star reflection. You can keep it if you want, but if you think you're not going to do it, just give it back to Patty, because there's some people in our county meeting that wanted that presentation. And okay, so now I thought I would just start with what's happening in our parish and how we came to, so we're going to the first slide. Okay, so currently right now, every family in our program meets once a month. We have about 260 families in the program, but remember, I inherited this program, and we have 4 different groups right now. I know at one point I had 5 different groups. I try to make it, you know, as easy as I can for myself. So we were able, at one point we had over 300 families in the program. We tried to cap it at 300 and had a waiting list. So now, right now, we have 4 different groups, and we didn't have to have a waiting list. We have 2 groups that meet on Sunday mornings, and we have 2 groups that meet on Monday nights. This year, we had a little challenge in our town because parking, I don't know if you've ever been to Mount Carmel, but parking in Ridgewood is really hard, especially at our church. So we had to take 10:45. We tried to make this around the 9:30 family mass. So ideally, the families will come to the 9:30 mass. on 2 different Sundays. You know, one group will come one Sunday, one group will come the next Sunday. And then they would gather from 10:45 to 12 noon. However, Father Ron needed the parking spaces for the 11 o'clock mass, which is our biggest mass. So we got creative and we did one just for this year only, and probably for next year now. We did one gathering at 8:10 and we finished at 9:25 with the hopes that everybody would go right upstairs and go to mass. And then we did another gathering after the 12:30 mass. So from 1:30 to 3. Everybody wanted in the morning and not in the afternoon, but we did get enough families to move to the afternoon. And we did a first come, first serve. And one thing that I realized is that I would like to continue to have 2 gatherings on one Sunday rather than do 2 different Sundays. So once the parking garage is built, I'm going to suggest to Father Ron if we could have one to stay at 8:10 in the morning before the 9:30 mass, and then another gathering after the 9:30 mass. Okay, and then we do 2 different Monday nights. Okay, so our program stands alone. Like, it's different than Eileen's, where if they're in the family program, their parents are the primary catechist. And so I try to explain that loud and clear. But one thing I learned this morning is that I need to clarify my goal. Like, Eileen has a really clear goal, and her goal is to get the parents to see themselves as, you know, the head of the domestic church. And I've talked about that a lot, but I haven't made that loud and clear. I keep talking about, I know I make this loud and clear, that the parents are the primary catechist and we're just there to support you. And I always share with them, I can't teach to a 1st grader, a 6th grader, and a 50-year-old at the same time. So what we do is, you know, give them something to think about and pray about. And we kind of do evangelization where we're moving the whole family from point A to point B, closer to our Lord. But the parents' job is to help them with the Catholic identity and Catholic faith themes and teach what's in the book. So they're to read 3 chapters a month in the book. We start with chapter 1. And so the series that we use is Alive in Christ. And each one of those faith themes has 3 chapters in it. So my goal is that the family sits down and reads those 3 chapters. But if you have 3 children in it, you have to read 3 different chapters with your children. So maybe the husband takes one child, the wife takes another child, and maybe the 6th grader reads those chapters on their own. And ideally, you should be able to have a discussion at the dinner table based on that faith theme. So the first faith theme is Revelation. Even though the different grade levels are learning about different things. So it's not always ideal that you can sit down with 3 different age groups and read the book. You have to kind of send them to their room to do some of it where you would read with the younger child. And then on our website, the families have to go to our website and they have to answer 12 questions based on that unit. And they can't answer the questions unless they read the chapter. So I took the questions from Alive in Christ. And Alive in Christ has a way where you can just put their online assignments up. But we had to make our own because when I first started this, we had them so like when I first came on board, I would collect their books and check their books. And that wasn't working with 300 families or 400 families. So what we finally did is online assignments. And when we did a 1 assignment per chapter, but that was way too much work for everybody. We tried to listen at the end of every year. I tried to have an evaluation and I asked them to be very honest with me. And they felt, that the homework was too much for them. And we try not to call it homework anymore. We call it an online component. So, and we tell them that the program has equal weight. Like the part you do at home is just as important as coming to the monthly gatherings as a family. So, and our program is for grades 1 to 6. It used to be through grades 1 to 8, but we do 1 to 6 now. We have a whole separate program, and I'm not in charge of it, with 7th and 8th grade, and then a whole separate high school confirmation program. So I'm just serving in our parish grades 1 through 6. And this is only one option. The families have the option of the family program or traditional religious ed program, which meets 3 days a week and you pick the day you want, or to come to a summer program. Also, right now in existence, we have home groups, but we are not doing home groups anymore. So if you're already in a home group, you can stay in it to age out. But we are not allowing new families to do home groups anymore. Okay, so getting back to the program layout. So the book at home, they have to do the 12 questions based on the 3 chapters. I actually have someone that checks all the online assignments for me. Next month, in the February large group session, we're actually going to sign up for next year so that they get the first choice of which time they want to come before we open it up to new families, because we are going to have a maximum of 70 families per time slot. And in order to be able to sign up for that, they have to be able to be caught up in the online assignments. And we have shared that with them for many years, but this year we're carrying it all the way through. And we probably have about 10% of our families that are not doing the home component as best as I would like them to do. But I'm always telling myself, and Father Ron reminds me, we're a field hospital and we have to take the people where they're at and gently move them. Gently move them as we're moving ourselves. So I've given them plenty of notice, years notice. So this year we really are following through with the online assignments. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the large group. This is just a copy of my schedule. I do give my schedule out in the beginning of the year. We always start with a parent meeting in September where we give out the books and we explain how to do the online assignments. And we explain that you're the primary catechist, and that if your children aren't learning the Catholic terms, it's on you because you are the primary catechist. But I would love to take that a step further and gently talk about the domestic church and how, we're trying to help all of us adults be better leaders of our domestic church. So I think I learned something today. Okay, so these are our sessions. We follow the book. So October is Unit 1, and then November is Unit 2. We ask them to do the assignments before they come to the session. And the first thing I do when we gather everybody, I ask the children, what is the theme? And, a lot of times everybody laughs because no one really knows the theme. But I'm like, if you're doing the online assignments and you're reading the book, everybody should know the theme. Okay. So our home study component, I think I talked about most of that. The parents are responsible. And you can just read that and you can go on our website and look at that. And we've tweaked it over the years. So if anyone wants to take our online assignments, if you ever come to this, that would be fine with me. Okay. Okay, so for the Sunday morning, we would have bagels, and that has kind of evolved over the years. So what I do now is I have a bagel store that will make my bagels for me with the butter and the cream cheese on them and wrap them, and it gives me a phenomenal deal, and I do mini bagels. So at the parent meeting, I ask them how many bagels they want for their family. Do they want plain? Do they want butter? Do they want cream cheese? And then I used to pour juices and all that. We don't. We make it very easy now. We use juice boxes that I get from BJ's. I go to BJ's like 4 or 5 times a year with my maintenance people and load up on the juice boxes, and I make coffee. So they come in, they get their juice box, their bagel that's already wrapped for them. They sit down and eat for a couple of minutes, and then we start our session. We used to use round tables. We don't anymore. We use round tables just for eating, but when I have them in front of me, I do like an auditorium sitting style. But one of the things that I'd like to change and work on is how we build more community as we eat. I was paying a lot of attention to Eileen as we've been preparing and talking over the last couple of days, and I think that's where I fall short, is to how to do that. Okay, so each of my gatherings has about 70 families in it. My Monday night gatherings are the biggest, and it's a real challenge to me because I would love to do everything around the Mass. So as you're starting from the beginning and you're not inheriting everything, I really want you to pay attention to some of the things that Eileen said. The first thing, I think there's a real ministry in eating together as community, 2 and 3 families. And maybe at the end, she could talk about how she did that, because I think that's something that, we started years ago, well before my time, when they started with a small group. And now I think we've lost that a little. And so there's about 100 children that come to each of the gatherings and a couple of 100 people together. So if you have 70 families and there's 2 or 3 people in the family, 2 or 3 children, and then the parents. On Sunday mornings, a lot of times mom and dad come, but we're very flexible. Like if mom and dad come and they bring their younger children, that's fine. I always have enough crafts or whatever I'm doing for the younger children as well. But if they come just mom and the child or dad and the child, that's fine too. But I notice on Monday nights, a lot of times it's not the whole family. And then it changes your whole focus. Sometimes, and my speakers definitely tell me this, sometimes it feels like a totally different program on Monday nights than it does on Sunday mornings. Sunday mornings are really with you. And on Monday nights, it's really a challenge. Okay, so we have 7 monthly sessions, but they're not always the same. So October through February, we have a regular session downstairs in our parish center where we have the food and then we have the session. But when it comes to March, April, and May, we do it different. So maybe I'll go back to our schedule for a minute. For March, April, and May, for March, we have reconciliation. And we have it in the church, and Father Ron invites other priests. We have like 10 to 12 priests. It takes a long time. We have a short reconciliation service, and then we ask the whole family to go to the sacrament of reconciliation. And it's separate from our parish reconciliation service. We have 2 services. So the one Monday night group and one Sunday morning group go to the first service, and then the other Monday night group and the other Sunday morning group go to the other service. And if you have a first grader, you bring them downstairs, and I actually have a teacher that comes downstairs and teaches them about Lent and does a wonderful program with a lot of hands-on activities on Lent. And then if you're a parent and you just have a first grader, you stay down there with her to help her with those activities. And if you have other children, you drop off your first grader and you come upstairs. And that's been very successful, but they're large groups because you're talking about like 150 families at each one of those with maybe 4 people in the family. So we have our music minister come, and it's sometimes hard to keep order, but that has been wonderful. And then in March, all right, so that's March. And then in April, and this year it's the last day of March, but usually in April, I invite a national speaker to come. Because I have anywhere from 260 to 300 families in our program, I ask once a year, and I tell them this in September, that if every family, if I go and get a national speaker, if every family could donate $10 on that session, then I would have enough money to pay that national speaker. And we've had Tony Melendez, we've had all kinds of people. I usually get them through the National Catholic Youth Ministry, like the speakers that come to the youth conventions, the National Catholic Youth Conventions, and I know that our youth office has great speakers, so I usually get them through them. And this year we're having someone local, but he is just as good as some of the other ones that I've had. And then, so that's in April. And it used to be that like they could come at 4 or 7. All the families in the family program and in the summer program. But now Father Ron last year asked us to tie it in with the parish mission and all the families with children in grades 1 to 6. So if you're in the school model, if you're in the traditional model, the home groups, everybody should come with their whole family at 4 or 7. And then we have we use the same speaker usually, but we have a different time for the 7th and 8th graders and a different time for the high school children. So we've put it into our parish mission, and that's why it's the last day of March instead of April this year. And then our May session is a closing mass where all the families in When Families Gather come with Father Ron, and we have a closing mass. I have to say that Father Ron is a huge supporter of the family program, and he's very present. So 2 to 3 times a year, I break up the sessions where the parents have a speaker, and then the children go by grade level. I pay someone actually this year and last year, but not always, to teach the 1st and 2nd grade. I teach the 3rd and 4th grade, and someone else teaches the 5th and 6th grade. But whoever I get to teach for me, whether it's a volunteer or a paid person, they have to be able to work with 40 to 50 children. That's why I've reached out to IHA to get someone for the 5th and 6th grade. That's why I do 3rd and 4th grade. And I have a woman in my parish, the same woman that does the 1st grade presentations during the Lenten penance services, that does that for me. And we're all comfortable with working with 40 to 50 children. And then the parents that come, I ask a couple of volunteers not to go to the parent session, but to come down to each of ours. You know, I ask someone to help with 1st and 2nd grade. I get like 3 or 4 parents for each one of those so that we have help when we're managing all of those children. And then for the parent session, I've gotten speakers in, but most of the time I use the priest. A lot of times, and Father Ron has been very instrumental in that. And then we have other people on our staff that are wonderful speakers, like our youth minister comes almost every year. Peter Denayo does adult faith formation. He's a wonderful speaker. So I try not to pay for the adult speakers if I don't have to. I ask someone on our staff to do it. And then, but Father Ron has been great at that. He's also done some of the sessions, and our other priests have too, when I keep all the families together. So how I do the family sessions is sometimes I create a program like we did with the STAR. Sometimes I invite a speaker in, which I pay, and sometimes I ask one of the priests or someone else on our staff, like Glenn McCall has done it for all of the families, the 70 families together. let's see, breakout sessions. Okay. So I think I told you that 2 to 3 times a year. And when I break out the sessions, this is what I do. So supposing I break out the session on the second faith thing, which I think is the Trinity. So I'm preparing the lesson for the 3rd and 4th grade. I actually go through the 6 chapters. So the 3 chapters on Trinity in 3rd grade and the 3 chapters on Trinity in 4th grade. And I pick the key words, and then I create a lesson that has like media and a teaching and an activity and a prayer. And I, have 3 or 4 people help me. I can remember when I was teaching on the sacraments, I actually made a twister sacrament game to reinforce. And I made sure I had a girl's twister and a boy's twister. I took like an old like tablecloth, and I actually made a twister game. And of course I get my best ideas at the wackiest times, because so on Saturday night I'm making my twister game, my poor husband, so that Sunday morning I can use it. But these are things we can all share with each other once we make these things. And so, but I think it's important that if you do breakout sessions, it can't just be all teaching. It's got to be, show them something where they can see it, they can hear it, and they can do it. So that's what we try to do. And I try to take the lesson right out of the book, because one of the things that I've observed over the years, and I don't think I'd be any better at it as a mom, so I have my own child, and it's hard to get anything else done except all the things you have to do, is they're not doing the at-home assignments perfectly because there's just no more time. But I believe they're doing the best they can. And that's why one of the things that I've learned over the years through Patty is that she did a lot of breakout sessions. And so even though she was having family sessions, those breakout sessions with the catechist were really important. But we had a lot of space challenges because we have the traditional religious ed going on at the exact same time as I have my family program on Sunday morning. So I had to get real creative. And that's why I do 1st and 2nd together. And that's the only reason why I do 3rd and 4th together. And that's the only reason why I do 5th and 6th together. So if I had 6 spaces, I might not need to pay someone, because I know that you have 6 volunteers that could handle 15 to 20 children. But that's why, because of the space issue that we had. And sometimes I've even used the church, but the thing is you can't. In total right now? Yeah. I told her I had 270 families in total right now. No. And almost 500 children. What? Okay, I got it. Okay. Yep. So when I first got there, we had like 1,200 children in grades 1 to 8. And then in grades 1 to 6, we had about 1,000. When I first got there, there was definitely about 200 children or a little more in every grade level. In Ridgewood, that has gone down. But I can tell you that Glenn's confirmation class is almost 200 though. And my first communion class is about 170 right now. So, and that's why we had those 4 models of religious education. So our biggest program is When Families Gather. And I have to tell you, not everybody is doing When Families Gather for the reasons why I would like them to. And so that's why I love the way that Eileen came to this point, and her pastor came to this point. Not a lot, but some people are choosing the When Families Gather because they can come 7 times as opposed to 25 times in the school model. But the thing is, I have to take them where they're at. So that's why it's been a long process developing the at-home curriculum, but that's really important, the at-home curriculum, and to have them do something, not just read it, but do the online assignments. And one of the things that I'm praying about right now is how do I move this family program back to them seeing that they're in charge of the domestic church and that they chose this. It's something I say clearly every year about how you chose this particular model for your family this year. And I share with them, not every year the same model will work for your family because life happens. So some years the summer program is just not going to work because, when you commit yourself to that program, you cannot miss a day because you're going to Florida or, going away for 4th of July. And I share that with them. And some years the When Families Gather isn't going to work because you just don't have the time to do this at home. So I try to repeat myself and really, be compelling about that. But now I have a new language since I listened to Eileen, new language to use to get that point across. Because I really believe that we have to pray about this and that God is using us as his instruments. So, and I think it develops over the years and it changes. Like I was talking to my pastor this morning and I'm like, Father, we need to do a better job of building community When Families Gather. And this is what Eileen does. So me preparing for this workshop helped me to look at my own program and where does God want us to redirect ourselves and where does God want us to put our energy. Do you want me to continue, Patty, or do you want me to ask questions, have them to ask me questions? Oh, should I talk about my speakers?
I have a cute little song and I have.
Yes. Do I have those videos? No. Oh, every time. I use media every time. And and also I bring in speakers, and I wrote to you, I mean, on your, the thing I handed out to you, I have some speakers. I try to use local speakers because I try not to pay that much. I try to pay like $150 per session or $200 per session. But I have to be just too in what I pay them. So I try to use like local speakers. So I've had Sarah, I've had Craig, I've had Peter Denayo. And then I've also had Colleen Kelly, and I pay her more, Colleen Kelly Rayner. She's on the same level as the national speakers, but she is local, but she is very talented. And my parents have asked me for her every year. So all the years I've done When Families Gather since I started with Colleen, I've never not used her. I use her 1 month.
Can I just say one thing? On my handout, the third page, I list my resources. So as far as media goes, you can always go to like usccb.org, and if you go underneath Lent, they'll have all different videos, little clips. You could go to the 3-minute retreat for Loyola Press. You could go to Dynamic Catholic has decision point videos. Just kind of have to be a little creative and just make sure what you're using is Catholic. So that's my.
Okay, and I was just going to share with you some of the media that I use, but I use media at every single session. And I always have a knot in my stomach because it doesn't always cooperate with me. And in the end, it usually works, but it doesn't always cooperate. And we're blessed at Mount Carmel because of this program, Father Ron has invested a lot of money into the media, and we have the projectors that are in the walls, and we have a huge sound system. But he did this for us, for the family program, because he knows that I use it every single month. So one of the things that I love is that Mentimeter. I don't know if you guys know that, but like you can ask them a question. So, and I love that Eileen was sharing with me yesterday when they eat together in small groups, and she assigns them their table. So they're constantly meeting new families and building community with new families. She has something for them to think about and talk about as they're eating. Well, you can use Mentimeter to do this beautifully. So you'll ask them a question, and then everybody gets out so they can brainstorm the answer to that question with their family. Once they come up with the answer that their family likes, someone takes somebody's cell phone within the family and they type their answer. And if 5 families type the same answer, then the answer gets bigger and bigger on the screen. So it's really kind of a cool thing to do. So I use Mentimeter. And when Sarah has spoken, she's used Mentimeter. So I always try after the speaker, or after the teaching, always try to engage the family to get them thinking about how they're going to live this out in their home after this. So I give them a question, and that's how you can use Mentimeter too. Give them an activity. I didn't share with you, but when we did the one on the star, after we did the showed the movie, got them thinking, we asked every family to take, we had these little bags underneath everybody's seat. And so they took out, and every single person in the family was going to give a gift to Jesus this Christmas. And it couldn't be a material gift. It had to be something you're going to give, you're going to do differently, or you're going to add to your life as a gift to Jesus. And every person in the family wrote theirs on a separate index card. And then they put it in their gift box, but we used little gift bags. And then they sealed the gift bags and they wrote to Jesus from the Hunt family, or whatever their family is. And I asked them to go home and put that by their nativity set. We talked a lot about every family having a nativity set in their home, or put it under their tree. And then I asked them on Christmas morning if they could open that up after they opened their other gifts, and if they could all talk about what their gift was, and, you know, are they doing it and how could they do it better? Okay, so I was just gonna, do we have a few more minutes that I can give you like a couple of samples of the activities we've done? She tell, okay.
Yes. Right. I use those online assessments too, and I think Kathy used to use them, but she has now since created one communal question that the family can answer together.
No, for the online assignments, no, they're 12 questions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it's the family can answer those 12 questions together. You created them.
Per chapter, and so I just combined it for the unit. Yes, and people can use mine. Yes. And I took the questions right from their website. Took the questions from them. Per grade. You could actually, when we're done here, show them, if you want on your computer, show them our website. It's per grade. Okay, it's per grade. What they have to do is they have to know what session they're in, A, B, C, or D, and then they go by grade. Then we've tweaked it in such a way that after they do the online assignment, the parent gets an email. So you have to put the parent email in, but the child's name. So I get an email. My only email says that Kathy Hunt did it and she got an 80. Because there are children that were doing it and getting zeros too, because they didn't know the answers because they didn't read the book. Oh, and I've shared that gently over the years. So now we've tweaked it, and I'd be willing to share it. Yes, I'm willing to share everything and people tease me and say, but that's your work product. No, it's God's work product. And I would be willing to be a receiver too.
Me too.
I'd be willing to receive from you, and I'm definitely receiving from Eileen.
And me too.
So anyway, I was just going to share with you some of the wonderful ones that we did over the years. So the Living Rosary. So we did that. Okay, you want me to wait a minute? I'm going to try to do this in 6 minutes since you asked us to be done at 11:45. I'll go to 11:45. All right, so tell me when to start. Okay, so one of the ones that we did was the Living Rosary, and we've done this for all the different programs, but we started it with When Families Gather, and we started it in Parish Center. And I remember the first couple of times I did it was complete chaos, but the people loved it. So if you have 70 families or 65 families, if each family could be a bead on the rosary. So I used glow sticks, and now they have sophisticated glow sticks that actually look like a bead. They're like little bracelets. I've used candles, the battery operated tea lights. So before the people come down to the Parish Center, I already have it set up looking like a rosary. And after they ate, I asked each family to stand behind a bead, and they could even sit down. So like if there's 4 people in the family, they're sitting, 4 in a line behind each other, behind that bead. And then each person leads, or each family member, like one person from each family would lead the bead. So like if you're on the bead for the Apostles' Creed, you say the first part, and then we all answer with the second part. And then if we have less families, then different children can do different beads. So you can do this in different ways depending, like if you have 20 families meeting, that would be perfect because everybody could be a bead on the rosary. So that's been very successful. And we do this with our other groups as well. And then you can do the Living Rosary inside or outside. We do it also outside at 6:30 at night. And see that little orange flag? I don't know what they're called, but those little flags that you can get that you can put in the ground. So before the people come, I set up those flags in the shape of a rosary, and then people know where they have to stand. And I was thinking, as we were talking about family faith formation, you can start your family faith formation by just implementing 2 or 3 gatherings for your families and see who comes to these. This would be a great, easy one to start with that your families would love. So you just advertise it in all your religious ed programs. Or, next week we're having a Living Rosary. If any family would like to come, we have a Sign Up Genius, or just show up. Then they come and they stand outside, and you're just ready to go. And it's a great family gathering. And then we tried to sing in between each decade too.
Can I just say one thing? Before I started any family catechesis, I did have a mock gathering that I asked families that I knew that didn't mind coming on a Saturday morning, and then we just kind of like a run through of what it might look like, and that was very helpful to me.
Okay, this is one that we created a long time ago that I really like. So what we did is, at one of the National Catholic Youth Conventions, there was a lady selling, Pixie Sticks. So she was selling that really fine sugar and colored sugar. So what we did is I had the family sitting at round table. So 2 or 3 families were at one table, and I asked them to brainstorm all the qualities of Jesus. And after that, we brought it back to the large group and we came up with 5 significant qualities of Jesus. Then I assigned each one of those qualities a color. And at that time, I had this sandy candy from that lady. So then I taught on how all of us are created like Jesus. We're created in God's image. So we all have these qualities. But when we interact with each other, we don't always see these qualities. So I was sharing with them that some of us have more patience than others, but others might be like more engaging or more forgiving. Each of us have a little bit of every quality of Jesus. So then I handed out little vessels to them, and I handed out little cups with each of the colors. And I asked everybody at the table, so the children and the parents, to make their own. So some people had a lot of green in theirs and just a little orange, and some might have more blue than yellow. And everybody in the family, their vessel looked very different, because in your family, some of you are more kind, but some of you are more patient, but we all have the gifts of Jesus. And what I did is I took mine and I shook mine. I asked them not to shake this. If you shake it, it comes out like an ugly gray or an ugly brown. And I shared that when we're interacting with each other, this is what we see sometimes. We don't always see the colors of Christ. So we need the gift of reconciliation. The sacrament of reconciliation comes with this gift called grace. And it really does, Jesus really does erase that ugliness. And so those colors of the rainbow come back into our heart. And then I talk a lot about grace, what grace does, how it helps us to be more holy. It's an invisible gift that we can't see, but God's changing us through that grace. And then they all got to go home and eat the sandy candy. And I used to laugh because the parents used to tease me, especially on Monday nights, that I'm sugaring them up. But you can also do this with colored sand that you can get at Michael's or any of the craft stores. And now I can't find the sandy candy, and it's kind of expensive to get California. So you can get other candy. It's not as powdery, though. And so I just bought some, and I wanted to show you what you can use. But sand works great, too. Okay, and another thing that we did this years ago, and I remember who did this. So I would ask the priest to help me with the sessions when we first started. So Father Tom Quinn was at our parish, and I told him he was going to teach on the 4 marks of the church. I asked him to teach on the church, and him and I brainstormed, and he said, I'm going to teach on the 4 marks. So what we did is he did his teaching. I always start with prayer, which I should have said. And I always try to use media in my prayer. I always try to use the screens. We use a Christian rock song or something. I sometimes show them a video off YouTube. And then we use scripture, and then I asked 5 or 6 children to come up and lead scripture and lead the prayers of the faithful. We start with opening prayer, and we always start with closing prayer. Anyway, after the opening prayer, then Father taught on the 4 marks of the church, and then the families were sitting at tables, and at each table we gave them a piece of newsprint, and we asked them to sum up the teaching. So they came up with key words that were about us. What does it mean to live out the 4 marks of the church? We asked them to think of a song on the TV, like I'm dating myself, but like the Oscar Mayer song or a commercial. So they were going to take a melody through a commercial or a sitcom song or something, and they had to put these words into that song. And then each table came up and presented. And that was really great. And it was so great to see the families. And one of the things that I constantly tell the parents, if you choose the family program, you are a participant. You're not here on your cell phone texting, watching your child. You're an active participant. We're all growing together. So they had to lead. So when I ask for someone to come up to get the newsprint or come up and get the directions, it's always an adult so that they know they're a participant. Okay. And so we haven't done it this way, but I love this picture. But we did a living Advent wreath. And I think I stole the idea from Verna, but I know Eileen and I both did it. So at the end of our session on Advent, tied a whole bunch of green tablecloths together, and every person in the room, so if you have 70 families, you have like 250 people holding on to the living Advent wreath. And then there were 4 children that came, or 4, I always did different age group. I made sure I had an adult, I made sure I had children. They were holding the candles in the middle, and I gave you some examples of the prayer we used. Okay, in our parish, this has nothing to do with when families gather, but through the moms group, they invite the whole parish every year to an Advent dinner where they make Advent wreaths. And it's a potluck dinner, and they have crafts for the kids, and they get the supplies for the Advent wreath, and every family makes one that chooses to come. And if you want to know where to get all that, if you just call me, my assistant is part of the moms group, and she knows how to gather all that stuff. And another thing, okay. I'm going to sum it up after this one. So the last thing I wanted to talk about then is the church calendar. I think it's a great tool to use that you can get through our diocesan office, where you actually have the families maybe once every 3 or 4 years take one home. You can get the paper ones and you explain that, and it's fascinating. And then you can have each family make their own simple advent calendar. Okay, and so what I did with the star, I did the same thing for the nativity. So I'm gonna end it by just saying, listen, I think it's really important to pray about this as you do it. Do it differently for your parish, what makes sense for your parish. Go slow and be open to that I'm not the end all and the be all. Be open to changes. Always do evaluations with your families. And I think the key part that I love that Eileen said is to involve your whole staff in it. And ask your families what they're looking for. And just remember, we're all on the journey together. Do you have any questions?
Do you have questions? I think people are clapping. People are clapping.
But truly, we are just so grateful for your time. So, I'm going to post this all up for them. And anyway, we'll do a wrap up here, but just incredibly grateful. Okay, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, I would like to have a gathering in the future where we maybe go to my parish, anyone that wants to come, and that we share each other's ideas. Like we all bring one idea that worked for families. And, like maybe even have Eileen, I thought she did a great job presenting it, offer it to anybody from any parish that wants to come and like have a morning where we have bagels and just talk and ask questions. Because we're learning too.
Catechesis, maybe we need to have some regular, anyway, we'll talk more.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You were amazing. Great. Thanks. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I said that.
Well,
stop
I
premise.
had other things.